We spend most of our lives running from pain and chasing pleasure. It just seems like the logical thing to do. But what if we've got it all backwards? What if sorrow isn't something to be avoided, but something to be, well, valued? Today, we're going to dive into a piece of poetic philosophy that argues exactly that.
It sounds like a paradox, right? Can something we connect with so much pain actually be beautiful? It's a really challenging idea for sure, but it's one that this piece of philosophy tackles head on. So let's see what it has to say.
Okay, so this whole idea kicks off with a single, really powerful metaphor: life as a garden. Now, I know it's a familiar image, but the focus here is on the absolute necessity of both the good and the bad growing together inside it. And boom, right out of the gate, the core argument is laid bare. This isn't about choosing thorns over flowers, not at all. It's about recognizing that the true beauty of the garden and the richness of our lives depends on both of them existing together. You really can't have one without the other. So on one side, you have the flowers. That's all the good stuff: pleasure, beauty, ease, the things we're all naturally chasing. And then you've got the thorns, the pain, the challenges, the hardship. The point isn't just that they live side by side, but that they're fundamentally connected. They're part of the same plant. I mean, you can't have the beauty of a rose without the reality of its thorns. All right, so if life is this garden of pleasure and pain, the poem then asks a pretty crucial question. How often do we actually run into those thorns? And here, it shifts from this broad metaphor to something way more immediate: the constant daily nature of our struggles. Just think about that line for a second. It completely reframes hardship. It's not some rare, huge catastrophe we might face once in a lifetime. No, the real doomsday is quieter. It's more personal. It's the struggles and the heartbreaks that we have to navigate every single day. And this, right here, is what makes this philosophy feel so real. It's not some abstract pie-in-the-sky idea. It starts by just acknowledging a simple truth. Hardship is a continuous, fundamental part of what it means to be human. So, if sorrow is both essential and constant, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, this next section gets into the poem's answer, and it all centers on the virtue of endurance. Have you ever felt this? This captures that internal conflict so perfectly. The pain is real, and staying silent feels like carrying this massive weight. But if you speak up, you risk trivializing it, turning this profound suffering into just another complaint. So what's the path forward? This internal battle between silent endurance and speaking out, it actually has a name. It's a core idea in the philosophy of stoicism. The idea of enduring hardship with a quiet kind of strength, without being overwhelmed by it or performing it for everyone else. The guidance here is pretty direct. You have to endure, to swallow these tears. It suggests that true strength, and even respect for deep emotions like love, is found in quiet resilience. This isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's presented as an act of profound internal strength. And this brings us to the climax of the poem, the core revelation. This is where all these ideas, the garden, the daily doomsday, the stoic endurance, it all comes together in one final, incredibly powerful image. Okay, get ready, because this is where the philosophy makes its most radical distinction. It separates two kinds of tears: the ones that fall for everyone to see and the ones that are held within. One is dismissed as mere water, while the other is given true value. The question is, which is which? And there it is. That's the mic drop moment. The argument is that the sorrow we process internally, the pain we carry without putting it on display, that's what holds the deepest meaning. It suggests that true character isn't forged in the performance of sadness, but in quietly making it a part of who you are. So let's just boil this all down. First, suffering isn't some bug in the system. It's a feature of a complete and beautiful life. Second, the sorrow we actually internalize is what forges real resilience. And finally, true strength isn't found in loud laments, but in quiet, dignified endurance. So the big shift in perspective here is this: sorrow isn't an enemy that we have to defeat. Instead, it's a fundamental ingredient for a meaningful life. It's the friction that allows for growth, the darkness that lets the stars really shine. So let's just sit with that for a moment. If we were to adopt this perspective, even just a little, how might it change the way you see your own struggles?
Maybe not as interruptions to your happiness, but as an essential and maybe even beautiful part of the complex garden that is your life.